Warning: this is a highly edited video. All quotes are taken out of context. If you want to see the original, look at the description. It's a great project that they have doing this. This edit came from Clean Water and Sanitation by the World Talent Economy Forum. World Talent Economy Forum. So yeah, that's it.
Welcome everyone. Today we have another new episode, and this episode actually we will discuss about clean water and sanitations. And clean water is very, very essential for Asia Pacific. Already different corporations and universities, they are working to solve these things, and we have our expert from around the world, because water is very, very important. Even in the COVID-19 situation, Malaysia also faced a lot of challenges to solving the water related things. So hopefully we will find out the way. We have our new friend, Mr. Brian. So I think this is your first sessions with World Talent Economy Forums. Can you please introduce yourself with our speakers and audience? And how do you want to define, because we are discussing about clean water and sanitation issues today. Yes.
Sure. Great. Thank you for the opportunity. I live off the grid. I live only on rainwater. And so I've made very personal decisions where I live about every detail of how I use water. So I'm less focused on talking about the problems and more focused on what I can do as an individual and then what we can do as communities. So that's what I'm going to talk about. My project in brief is I live on 83 acres in central Mexico off the grid. I've been here since 2004. It's been a big, huge adventure. And I like talking about water issues a lot. And so let's do that. I've got about 110,000 liters of storage that I use, and I drink that water unfiltered. I do actually provide for any visitors here. I provide them filtered water, but I think I've been fine, and I did test my water once. So number one thing I would suggest is if the entire civilization was living off rainwater, that would solve a lot of problems. Of course, that's impossible given our current situation. You know, we have unclean air. We have very high population densities. We have roofing that is not designed to capture water, but every roof should be capturing water. And then you can actually calculate, there's a formula for calculating how much water you can get off of a roof with your rain cycle, your annual average rain cycle. That's really important. Now, if it rains all the time, you don't need to store very much water. But if, like where I live, there's a brief rainy season, then you need to store enough water to survive the rest of the year. So you can calculate exactly what your personal water needs are. Now, I'm just talking about home level stuff individuals can do. I realize there's bigger problems, and we can talk about corporations and them stealing water and all this stuff. I'm not going to address that right now. My solution, go like this. Store the water and then learn how to use way less water. Essentially, we are water wasting pigs. It's no surprise we have a water crisis, and the easiest solution isn't some new gadget or some new technology. The easiest solution is conservation, learning to use less. And the thing is that the people in the Western industrial worlds or wealthy people have access to all this water, so they use it. It's easy for them. It's cheap for them. Of course, they're going to waste it. So we need to learn from the people who live with less water and then figure out how much water do we actually need in order to be healthy, to have drinking water, some cooking. We wash clothing. There's two big areas I see that we can fix our water consumption at the home level. Here we go. Number one is composting toilets. Okay. I have not shit in clean water for many years now. And every time that you are shitting in clean water, you should remind yourself that you're totally contaminating a useful resource. And your society is actually making you do it. It's actually illegal to build composting toilets in much of the United States. I don't live in the United States because I want to live in a free country where I can be independent of centralized systems. It is ridiculous that you are required by law to shit in clean water. And all over the world, people should address that with their governments or municipalities. Sorry. So the composting toilets I have aren't these expensive plastic ones with fans that you buy. You could spend $10,000 on a composting toilet. Do not do that. You could use a 5-gallon bucket system if you wanted to, and you can see lots of YouTube videos on those. I actually have one of those now, and I've been using it because I'm briefly disabled, but I have big, larger composting toilets that require no maintenance. There's no moving parts. And so it can be built all with local materials. Any fancy thing that you have to go somewhere else to get parts for, or, and governments and nonprofits even push these bad solutions that end up failing. We want simple things built with local materials that are perfectly hygienic, and it's so easy, it's ridiculous. I've been doing it for 15 years, 16 years or so. Now I'm going to bring up another issue real quick. Am I going too long here?
You can continue.
Okay. If I get too talkative, you just let me know. I can talk for hours. A thing that goes along with the composting toilet, and I'll talk less about it, is the pee garden. When you're flushing the toilet, you're often flushing it for pee, not poo. And I want to separate these systems mostly. I want people to be able to pee in something, and then that pee is very easy to deal with. It's much easier to deal with than solid waste, right? So I'll stop on composting toilets now, but that gets rid of how much of the water you waste. There's some estimates that it's like 40% of your water is just being flushed down the toilet. 40%. That's an enormous gain if we just make a very simple change. Number 2 on saving water is shower water. And this is a cultural thing. People take showers. Some people take a shower every day. I think I'm going on about a month without a shower. Now, I wouldn't suggest that because that's gross. But what we do here in the culture, in this kind of cultural laboratory called Bosque Village, that's where I live. You can put a link to it somewhere, look it up. You can look up my name too, you'll find it all. If people sit in a sauna for 20 to 40 minutes, then all their dead skin, you feel your skin roll off, and you really get clean, like way cleaner than just dumping some water on you in the shower. And it becomes really easy to scrub that all off. And so you're 5 times cleaner than if you took a water shower. You had maybe a social time, or maybe you had a quiet time in your sauna. It's your sauna. You can use it how you like. So then you rinse off real quick with a little bit of water, and you've just gotten rid of about 90 to 95% of your shower water usage. And showers use a lot of water. So these are simple cultural solutions that we can immediately implement. We can decide as the industrial countries, the 10% of the people that use 50% of the resources, we can decide that we're part of the problem and we're going to be part of the solution, and we're going to come up with elegant, simple solutions for saving massive amounts of water. I have a bunch of other ideas about how to save water, ideas about solar distillation of water so we can turn seawater into fresh water, but I think that's a pretty good introduction, I guess.
Thank you. Dr. William.
Oh, well, not to switch up here, but Brian, normally when we talk about the discussion of desalination plants,
sure,
with seawater and such, I'm kind of familiar. What I don't know, one of the reasons why I love this program is that I get to learn. So you just said to take seawater using solar and turn it into potable water. That's my question. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you whatever Dr. Sharif was going to give me. Can you answer that question for me, please?
How I would do purification of seawater with solar?
Yeah.
I'll tell you exactly how. And I've never heard this idea before. And I hope anyone that has more engineering skills than me or cares about it, I don't live next to the ocean, I hope they steal this idea. Please steal this idea. You have now what's called evacuated tube solar hot water heaters. If you don't know what that is, it's a black tube in a vacuum that fills with water. It heats the water. It all gets stored in a big thermos. It is an amazing system. They're spreading like crazy here in Mexico because people have less centralized infrastructure and energy in general. They work without any motors. So you don't need any motors, no moving parts. Moving parts break all the time. So what we're going to do is we're going to use these evacuated tube solar hot water heaters, which will actually boil water. We hook that up with coils of copper to mixed in with the thing with the seawater in it. So we're heating the seawater.
Okay.
Now these heaters are so hot that they actually will boil water.
Right.
Well, how you still water? You boil it. You boil the water, and the water goes up, and then you collect it, and it just sits there coming out, just like you would with alcohol, right?
Okay, no, right. But I mean, how do you get the salt out of the seawater?
The salt will remain behind in the container of the original water, and then you can occasionally dump it out. And I do realize that if you were to do that at a large scale, you have to figure out what to do with that salt.
Right.
I mean, it's a waste product at that point that to potentially contaminate the ground. But
So
this is a very,
So you're essentially saying, what they've been doing here in the United States, particularly during Prohibition, just set up a still.
essentially it's a solar still. The nice thing is it doesn't use any electricity or fire, and so it's easy to use. It would just keep operating all day long, and it would even operate a little bit at night because there's still hot water in the thermos, right?
Okay.
And so,
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
okay,
Thank you,
great.
Brian.
Depending on which country, an incredible amount of water is used actually for industrial purposes, and in fact, much more than in a lot of places, much more than average home consumers. So although a lot of focus is on average home consumers, a massive amount of water actually used in industrial processes, and so I think that needs to be looked at.
Again, I looked it up, and the 10% of water use that's for people, urban, it includes industrial use. So all of the industrial use of water in California is less than 10%. In other words, if you add all for showers and drinking and flushing toilets and making stuff and all of that is 10% of the water use in California.
Now, as part and parcel of infrastructure, most people think about roads and bridges and things of that nature. But water is the exact part of the future of infrastructure.
Yeah, wow, this is a great conversation. You guys are just great. On the infrastructure thing you just mentioned, sir, I think that is the key. And what I would like to see is decentralized infrastructure. And the government always proposes centralized infrastructure that they can control, but I'm a big fan of having remote systems. And of course that helps very rural people, and a lot of rural people are some of the people who are most resource poor. So I totally agree with you on that. I did want to address the earlier comment by Donald. I understand that what you're saying. And what you're essentially saying is most of the water isn't being wasted at home. Most of it's industry and agriculture. And that's very true. I hope that noting that never becomes the message, don't worry about it at home. Because we have control at home, and we really see the waste that's happening. The other part that happens at home is we buy stuff for our homes and our lives. And that is what industry is. And so our consumption is causing all that industrial stuff. So stopping consuming so much, stop being part of the 10% of the world that uses 50% of the resources, and you've just saved water. On the agricultural end, we can make decisions about what we eat to eat food that wasted less water. Like you mentioned about, the alfalfa and all these things we grow just to feed livestock. Well, I actually decided not to have cows here, even though my neighbors do. What I'm a proponent of is rabbits and chickens. Rabbits and chickens are the best way to produce animal products for human consumption. Even though dairy is very tasty, it's better than dairy, better than beef. And I've raised rabbits before. They can be done at a small scale. You don't have to transport them as far. You get fur out of it. I mean, it's just amazing. And they're cute. Does make them hard to kill. And the chickens, I don't raise those for meat, because they're giving me a prepackaged meat product in a perfect package, an egg. And they're giving it to me with very little work, and they eat all of my food waste. There is no food waste. Any compost stuff you've got, I mean, I try to get it from out in town when I go to town and bring it in. So if we change our eating habits, we can change what water's being used to produce it. I think it's, I forget what nut it is in California, but that particular nut, it's like pistachios or something, uses a huge amount of water. So maybe we should go down the list of all the foods we eat and say, I'm going to pick the foods that use less water, because that's going to help in this world crisis.
Thank you.
So it's like the agricultural sector is taking 70%, is consuming 70% of the global water consumption. The industry is consuming 20%. and the rest is on the private side, just 10%. So this was also my point at the beginning, where we need to start consuming less in the agricultural sector. Brian, I like your point in terms of consumption. Do we really need this variety of food? Do we really need this variety of products, or can we scale it down to a certain aspect?
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Brian.
Hi. Wow, this is a great discussion. I often feel very alone in the work I do. You know, I live physically removed. I think my nearest neighbor is about 2 kilometers away. And so it's really just inspiring to hear that other people, many of them skilled in ways I'm not, are thinking about solutions at all kinds of scales. So even though I've got my preferred solutions I want to push on the world because I think they can save the world, I'm happy that anyone cares at all, that anyone's trying to think about this. Because I think we're usually, in terms of change as a society, we're emergency driven. Like, we're not going to change unless we have to. People are not going to stop consuming as much as they can because that's what we're developed to do as an organism. Like all organisms, we're going to use up all the resources we can. And so I wonder about cultural alternative paths to get us out of that kind of trap. Because I can't even, get my friends who I've talked to for 25 years about this stuff to not take so many showers. No one's built a composting toilet in my design. And I have to do better at communicating that, of course, and I need to publish more videos and publish better designs and talk about peripheral cases. But I'm concerned that essentially we have all these externalized consumption costs, like the costs of our consumption, that are hidden from us. So when you talk, for example, about sewage treatment, there's a whole plant out there. They have to dig up roads and repair pipes, and it's a totally unsanitary, extremely expensive solution, and it's actually illegal, probably where you are, to build a composting toilet. And I would challenge all of you to check out the laws on that. Can you build a composting toilet where you live, and why is the government not letting you do something that's an obvious solution that benefits everyone, especially in a place like India where open defecation is a problem? This is an easy solution. There should be no more discussion about it. We should stop shitting in clean water. That's it. And thank you all for a great conversation.
Possible. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, our honorable speakers, for joining World Talent Economy Forum discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Well, thanks a lot, everybody, for the great discussion. It was really, really interesting. I also...
Yeah, so I want to thank everybody. I'm learning an awful lot in these sessions, and